As Hoai Ca carries a new life inside her will, Hung realizes, in time, that the mother he trusts is hiding a secret that could destroy everything. Hung's mother, the woman who once made Hoai Ca cry, has suddenly returned. But this time, the smile on her face isn't remorse. It's something colder, harder to read, almost chilling. She says she wants to make things right, to take care of her son and his wife. But behind those sweet words, a dark plan is slowly coming to light. A return that seems harmless, but one wrong move could tear everything apart. Don't miss the next episode, where buried secrets will be revealed, and Hung and Hoai Ca's love faces its toughest test yet. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the shocking twists ahead. The return of Hung's mother. After half a year of disappearing, Hung's mother finally came back to the very house she once sold the place that had witnessed all her sins and regrets. The village road hadn't changed. The tall areca trees still stood quietly. Only the house was different now. The walls had been repainted. The roof tiles replaced. The smell of new paint still lingered in the wind. The house wasn't hers anymore, and that truth made her old heart ache with every beat. She stood for a long time at the gate, her trembling hand brushing the wooden door now painted over. Every bird's chirp, every breeze across the yard brought back memories, the days when Hung was a boy, when Hoai Ca had just become his bride, when laughter used to fill that small kitchen. But this was also the place where, in a moment of blind anger, she sold the house, hired people to hurt Hoai Ca, and pushed her own son into despair. No matter how much time passed, that guilt would never fade. The house must belong to someone else now. She thought, her eyes blurring in the afternoon light. She didn't dare go in. Instead, she walked along the narrow path to Mon's house, the kind, honest neighbor who had seen every tragedy unfold. His home looked the same, with a few new flower pots by the porch. Standing at his gate, she called softly. Moments later, footsteps approached. When Mon saw her, he froze. The woman who had vanished without a word was standing right there. He quickly invited her in. The room smelled faintly of tea, and the kettle whistled quietly in the background. She looked frail, thinner, her hair whiter, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. But somewhere in them was something else: remorse. She sat down, warming her hands on the cup of tea, her voice low and rough. For the past 6 months, she'd been living quietly in a small rented room on the outskirts of town. No family, no contact with anyone. She wandered from place to place, searching for a reason to come back. Only today, thinking about her old home, did she finally find the courage to return. Mon listened in silence, feeling the pain behind every word. She said she dreamt of Hung and Hoai Ca almost every night, their faces, their eyes on the day she left always haunting her. Now all she wanted was to buy back the old house, to somehow make things right, to see her son again, without having to lower her head in shame. "Do you know who owns the house now?" she asked, her eyes flickering with a trace of hope. Man told her it had been bought months ago. The new owners had moved in and done a lot of repairs. As for Hung, he had taken a new job far away, only asking Mon occasionally to keep an eye on the old place. Hearing that, she bowed her head, her chest tightening. That house, the one where Hung grew up full of memories, was now someone else's. Still, she held on to a small hope. She hadn't spent the money from the sale. It was still there untouched. If I can buy it back, maybe my son will forgive me, she whispered to herself. Monge could hear the honesty and the pain in her voice. She told him that Hung had already paid off most of the debts and that the remaining money could have been enough to reclaim the house. That's why she came back. But she hadn't dared let Hung know she'd returned. I'm afraid he won't forgive me, she said softly. To him, I was the biggest heartbreak of his life. I can't face him. Not until I've done something to make it right. Man stayed quiet for a long time. He felt sympathy for her, this mother who had done wrong, but was truly broken now. He nodded and said he'd help find out about the new owners. Outside, the sun was setting. Golden light fell across her wrinkled face as she stood up, pulling from her bag an old envelope filled with money. The same money crumpled and yellowed she'd kept all this time. I never touched it, she said. I've been waiting to buy the house back. Man told her to keep it safe and promised to help contact the new owners. She smiled faintly, her eyes wet. Thank you, child. I don't know who else I could have asked. Before leaving, she stopped once more in front of the old house. The door was painted white now, a small flower pot on the windowsill. Everything was familiar, yet distant. She walked along the fence, her fingers tracing each brick. Under her touch, memories came alive. Hoai Ca, watering the plants, Hung fixing his bicycle. Everything's still there, except her place in it. Half a year running from her past, a lifetime of regret. This house was her last hope. If I can just buy it back, if Hung can just forgive me, she murmured. That night, she went back to her small rented room, a bare space with just a bed and a stove. From a wooden box, she took out an old family photo, Hung Hoai Ca and little Tony. Her tears fell onto the picture, blurring the smile of the grandson she once despised and wanted to erase. Now that same child was her only reason to go on. I was wrong, Tony, she whispered into the darkness. But I'll make it right. I'll do whatever it takes so you and your parents can live in peace. Outside, the wind slipped through the cracks, cold and sharp. Inside, the weak yellow light shone on the face of a woman crying for her guilt, her losses, and a fragile hope that maybe somehow tomorrow could still be different. Meanwhile, far away, Hoai Ca, carrying new life inside her, had no idea that the woman who once nearly destroyed her was quietly coming back. And Hung away, on work, didn't know either that his mother had returned, bringing with her a secret. And maybe a new storm for his family. Down the silent village road, the old woman's shadow slowly faded behind the bamboo trees. Moonlight shimmered on her silver hair. She turned back for one last look at the house, a place filled with both guilt and hope, then walked away step by step. No one knew if she came back to make amends or to start something darker. And in the quiet night, the story of Hung Hoai Ca and Tony was still far from over. Night fell, and the city slowly sank under the dim yellow lights. In a small rented room, Hung's mother sat quietly in front of a makeshift altar where she had placed an old faded family photo. Time had washed away its colors, but every time she looked at it, her heart clenched like someone was squeezing it tight. Hung, the son, who had once been her greatest pride, was now the deepest wound in her life. And Hoai Ca, the gentle daughter-in-law who had endured all her cruelty, was now the name that made her unable to lift her eyes toward heaven. The small lamp cast her shadow across the cracked wall. Every line on her weary face told a story of hardship, but none ran deeper than the guilt carved into her heart. She knew the days left in her life probably wouldn't be enough to make up for what she had done. Her trembling hands closed slowly, as if trying to hold on to something that was slipping away. Maybe a memory, maybe faith itself. If only I hadn't done what I did. The words caught in her throat. She could see Hoai Ca's face small, kind, gentle. She remembered the day Hung brought her home, his eyes glowing with a happiness she'd never seen before. Mom, she's the one I want to marry. Back then, she'd stayed silent, watching her son, with doubt building in her heart. That woman, Hoai Ca, was too soft, too quiet. She feared the girl wouldn't be smart enough to keep Hung, her brilliant, successful son, the only hope she'd ever had. When Hung got married, she smiled. But behind that smile was jealousy, quiet, poisonous. She had lost her husband, early raised her child, alone fought through pain no one saw. To her, love was a luxury, a fantasy from movies. So when she saw Hoai Ca being loved, cared for, protected, a strange feeling took over. It hurt. It burned. It made her bitter. She started resenting everything about her daughter-in-law, the way she spoke, the way she cooked, the way she looked at Hung. She couldn't stand seeing her son laugh because of someone else. She told herself, she's just an outsider. How can she take what belongs to me? And from that moment, a dark seed was planted small, but enough to destroy everything. She began to drive them apart. At first, with subtle words, then with sharper looks, and finally, with cruel actions. She called Hoai Ca fake ungrateful, said she was just using Hung. Her son stayed quiet, but Hoai Ca cried. Those tears had once given her a twisted sense of satisfaction because she thought she was right. She thought her daughter-in-law didn't deserve him. But everything changed when Hoai Ca got pregnant. Instead of joy, her heart sank. She feared that baby would take her son even further away. Her jealousy reached its peak, and in a moment of blind rage, she did something unforgivable. She sold the house, their only home, to get money to hire someone to make Hoai Ca lose the baby. She still remembered that night. The rain poured hard, the wind howled like a warning. The man she hired had looked at her and asked softly, "Are you sure she's carrying your son's child?" But she didn't listen. All she could think was, "I have to get rid of her. I have to keep my son." The plan failed. Hoai Ca was hurt, but the baby Tony survived. When Hung found out, he froze like stone. He took Hoai Ca to the hospital and then disappeared. He never came back. She screamed and cried, but no one answered. The house was empty, only the sound of rain hitting the roof and the weight of guilt eating her alive. Since that day, she'd lived like a ghost. She had money, but it meant nothing. She wandered from town to town, avoiding everyone, too ashamed to return home. Every night in her dreams, she saw it all again. Hoai Ca lying in blood, Hung walking away. Tony's first cry, echoing without her there. So many times she wanted to find Hung to kneel down and apologize, but she couldn't. She was terrified. terrified of his cold eyes, of Hoai Ca's forgiving smile, of the pain she had caused. Years passed. Whenever she heard that Hung had moved again, that Hoai Ca was pregnant once more, her heart ached. She was happy for them but broken because she couldn't share that happiness. She knew if she didn't do something, she would die with her regrets. So she came back. Standing in front of the old house, she finally understood the things she had traded everything for the house. The money, none of it mattered. What she truly lost was love, trust, and family. She didn't want the house just as property. She wanted it because it was the only place she could start over. If I can buy it back, she thought, maybe my son will forgive me. Maybe Hoai Ca will see that I've changed. But sitting in her dark little room, looking at the old stack of bills in her hands, she let out a bitter laugh, a laugh that was part pain, part shame. Money can buy a house, she whispered. But can it ever buy back trust? She didn't know. For nights, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Hung walking into the house. Hoai Ca behind him, her hands resting on her pregnant belly, looking at her with pity. "Why are you here, Mom? To hurt us again?" The voice in her dream snapped her awake. She cried, deep shaking sobs. Tears ran down the table as she whispered, "If only I'd known how to love you right. If only I'd stayed quiet that day." She finally understood love itself isn't wrong, but love twisted by control and jealousy is. She had loved her son with all her heart, but it was a selfish, possessive kind of love that ended up hurting everyone. Now, only 2 fears remained dying before she could apologize and being forgiven too easily because she didn't deserve it. One morning, she went to the post office and wrote a letter. The first line read, "My son, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer here. But I want you to know, I never stopped loving you. I just loved you the wrong way." Her handwriting trembled, but the words were honest. She confessed everything: the jealousy, the fear of losing him, the blind moment when she sold the house and tried to hurt Hoai Ca. She didn't make excuses. She just needed to let it out. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "Don't hate me anymore. If you can keep the house, not for me, but for Hoai Ca, for Tony, and for the baby on the way, that will be my peace in the afterlife." She folded the letter, slipped it into an envelope, and placed it inside a small wooden box next to the money. That night, she lit a single incense stick. The smoke curled through the room, the scent of sandalwood mixing with the dark. She looked out the window. The moon hung low, its pale light glimmering in her teary eyes. "God, if you're there," she whispered, "please keep my son safe. Please protect Hoai Ca. And please, don't let their unborn child carry my sins." Her hands clasped together, trembling as she prayed. For the first time in years, she felt something lift, like a heavy weight finally leaving her chest. That night, she slept peacefully, a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning, she woke early, put on her coat, and took a bus to the town where Hung worked. Not to meet him, just to see him from afar. She wanted to know he was okay to see Hoai Ca smile, to watch Tony running around. That would be enough. The bus moved slowly. The scenery rolled by each turn, and tree bringing back an old memory. She realized this wasn't just a journey to see her son. It was a journey to find herself again, the mother who had been lost for so long. Inside her heart, a small voice said, quiet but clear, "It's time to forgive yourself." Maybe Hung would never open the door for her. Maybe Hoai Ca would never forget. But at least she wouldn't hide anymore. Because sometimes redemption doesn't need witnesses, only a heart that truly repents. And in that moment, Hung's mother, once cruel, once broken, once lost, finally understood what love really means.